Hey everyone, it's Lulasai. I am pretty fired up right now. And it's not because of Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. It is because, well, I'm actually recording this just barely on July 2nd, but I watched this movie on July 1st, and the news for July 1st, happy belated Canada Day, by the way. The Canada Day present that I received, well, lots of us received, is that Sony is no longer going to support physical media starting in January 2028. So I'm going to make some sort of content around that news for sure. I'm not normally one to chase trends and try to capitalize off of, I don't know, current events, I guess, but this is something I'm actually very passionate about. I'm not going to flip the camera around right now, but what I'm personally looking at is my huge wall library of, most generations of consoles that are Xbox or PlayStation, and my movies, DVDs, Blu-rays, 4Ks. I'm very passionate about it. I have vinyl records as well. I'm a huge advocate for physical media and having ownership of stuff. So I'm gonna have to make a rant or something, or a collection showcase, or I just have to do something. I'm gonna have to do something very soon regarding that kind of news. But anyways, let's focus on this now. But it's just so crazy because, I mean, why would I buy a this is a PS5 Pro, which, by the way, I had to buy an additional disc drive for. It did not come with one. There was no option to come with one. And now it's not even future-proofed for even 5 years at this point, this disc drive. Why would I want to buy a PS6 without a disc drive with no option to have one if I'm not even going to be able to play my movies? It's going to be a completely useless device to me, basically. Yeah, I'm going to be using the PS5 for a long time, I think. Maybe they will include a PS6 disc drive, but why? I mean, they're not going to have PS6 discs, right? So why would they just do it for movies? That would be nice if they did it for movies, but I don't imagine they will. So anyways, we'll see what happens with that. Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. This is a 1980 film directed by Irvin Kershner, so it's actually not George Lucas. George Lucas is still involved, of course, but he is not the one leading the charge, so to say, here. Or he kind of is from behind the scenes, but you get my point. So, The Empire Strikes Back is honestly might be the single greatest sci-fi action adventure film ever made. And I think, you know how I just was glazing A New Hope with, I said Darth Vader might be the single best villain in cinema history. Han Solo might be the single most charming character in cinema history. This one also has plenty of those types of statements. I would immediately say it might have the single best original soundtrack in a movie in cinema history, and it also might have the single best line delivery in cinema history, which is when Han says, "I know," in response to Leia's confession. Perfect. Especially if you compare it to all other lines in movies that are 2 words or less, I think it's a pretty obvious contender or winner. So yeah, but the plot, yeah, I'm very scrambled brained because, I mean, this news just devastated me. I'm not normally I'm not a very reactionary person, but this is a big deal for me. So I'm gonna have to, I have to digest this whole physical media situation on this channel. I'm gonna do it to process it. But anyways, the movie. So the plot, we are following. Darth Vader has become obsessed with finding Skywalker, Luke. I don't know why I said his last name first, but yeah, I mean, Skywalker's a pretty badass last name, but yeah, so he wants to find Luke desperately, and he's able to track his whereabouts to the rebel base on Hoth. So the rebels naturally are forced to evacuate, and Luke becomes separated from the rest of his friends, and he goes separately off to the Dagobah system as guided by Ben, Obi-Wan, because there is a Jedi Master named Yoda there who can train him, who will be able to. And we also have the rest of the characters, Han, Leia, Chewie, the droids. They are basically, they spend this entire movie in a chase, but that's not a bad thing. That is actually why this movie is so exciting and exhilarating constantly. I mean, this is a 1980 film, a 1980s movie that has the pace of a modern day movie, but it's not like TikTok pace. It's like, it's just perfectly paced. So, and a huge reason for that is because our characters are constantly in chase. They're on the move all the time. They have to flee, flee, flee. So they're either in space, or eventually they also are, they end up going to Cloud City, which is one of the coolest Star Wars locations, of course, where we also meet Lando Calrissian, which is one of Han's old friends, who is a very charming entrepreneur. And yeah, I don't want to spoil anything, but there's just a lot of narrative value in this film, and that's why it's so brilliant. So let's just start talking about why it's so brilliant. So this is a film that is extremely fast-paced and has all the action and everything you would ever want, but unlike a lesser movie, it doesn't compromise anything else. It doesn't sacrifice anything else. It still has the high character value and interactions between them. There's lots of character growth and development and interactions between everyone. There's huge emotions in this movie. Like so many like jaw-dropping scenes, and also just like the first time you watch it, I've seen this movie like 30 times, so I'm not obviously not being super surprised anymore, but especially on that first viewing, it's lots of jaw-dropping moments and just completely surpasses your expectations and blows the first film out of the water. In the first film, I already gave it 10 out of 10, and I've cited it as, you know, potentially the single most influential film in Hollywood history, cinema history in general. So for this to surpass it with a entirely different director and not have the sequel curse as well is just like lightning in a bottle. And it really is. That's the best way to describe this movie, is lightning in a bottle. Everything comes together perfectly. And when it comes to movies, when you're 2 hours or longer, there's a lot of room for mistakes. And this film just doesn't have any. The only one single weird thing about it is that Leia is being even further pushed and set up as a love interest for Luke, which is obviously going to be very weird and a problem in the next movie. There is a pretty rational explanation for that. It's simply because the original trilogy of Star Wars, the 3 movies were directed by 3 different people, and George Lucas did not have the entire game plan immediately planned out from the very conception of the series. So it's just an unfortunate kind of artifact. I say unfortunate because it honestly is kind of funny. Like, obviously it's weird and, you know, inappropriate, but it's funny. And my dad and I always get a laugh out of it whenever one of those weird scenes are happening. So, yeah. So I'm trying to say, it's like I wouldn't want to go back in history to change it. Like, I don't want to, like, alter the media. But in hindsight, yes, it is a weird thing that they are establishing Leia as a potential love interest for Luke, and they're kind of doing a whole love triangle thing throughout this film, and they kind of were in the first movie as well, but it's pressed even more here. But yeah, it's again just it's not really anyone's fault. It's just something that has happened because they didn't plan things out properly. And honestly, I think it went the right direction in the end anyways. Like, I actually kind of respect it in a way. Now I'm kind of doing the hamster wheel of making it make sense to myself, like a lot of Star Wars fans do, but I think this one actually deserves the hamster wheel a little bit here. It actually makes sense, and I'm not spoiling it because I'm going to try to do no spoilers on this channel whatsoever, unless it's very important and I just have to talk about it. But yeah, the reason it actually becomes kind of respectable, I never thought I would say the word respectable describing what I'm describing right now, but the reason I say that is because at least they didn't like die on the sword, you know? They didn't like, okay, well, we started this plot line, so we have to finish it no matter what. At least they didn't do that, because instead, we get a different resolution that's completely left field, has no correlation to all of the weird scenes that happened before. Now, like, in hindsight, weird. They weren't weird. I guess they weren't weird the very first time you watched it. I wasn't born yet, but I'm sure if you watched these movies when they came out, it wasn't initially weird, but now it's weird. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about, right? I don't think I need to justify myself, but I'm just glad that Luke and Leia end up where they do. That's just where I'm saying. It might have started out a little strange in hindsight, but at least they didn't die on the sword and continue that path, and it ended up being the correct path, in my opinion. Anyways, yeah, I way over explained that for no reason. I just don't know why I was trying to justify myself so much. I just didn't want to sound weird to the camera, but I mean, common sense prevails, right? You should know I'm not being weird right now. So other positives, I actually didn't really talk about John Williams that much in A New Hope because A New Hope review was a little bit scrambled brained because I was introducing myself as a person and a content creator as well simultaneously. But yeah, obviously John Williams was amazing in his soundtrack was amazing in A New Hope, and here it's even better. It's even better. It fits the tone of the film perfectly, and this is what I want to talk about next. So love the music. What I want to talk about next of why this film is so good and why it is better than its predecessor, despite the fact that they're both going to be perfect scores in the end, is because the biggest reason is due to the maturity, I would say, or the themes. A New Hope is more like a classic Marvel comic book where, you know, the good guys win, right? Empire Strikes Back, and I love it for that. But Empire Strikes Back, it does not care about your feelings. It does not hold back punches. It is doing things that, you know, it doesn't care about the way it makes you leave the theater. Right? It doesn't. You don't have to be 100% content. It wants to keep you in suspense and on edge. And it's not like a kind of manipulative way that some other movies might do. It's more of a just realistic, gritty way where it's like, yeah, life in Star Wars isn't actually that great. It's a pretty barren galaxy out there sometimes, and it's pretty hopeless. So our characters are in trouble. They, only one of them has some sort of superpower with the Force. So the rest of them, what are they going to do? They're just going to try their best to survive. It's not always going to work out, and people are going to betray them. And yeah, that's just life. So this film just feels very bleak, and it ends in a very dour way, without a happy ending, and I respect that. It also Empire has a way better lightsaber duel than A New Hope. It's better narratively, because the characters are just, there's so much more story advancement in this scene, and the choreography is obviously leagues ahead, way, way, way better. Yeah, I love the locales as well, like the planets and stuff. They're all so unique and distinct from each other. I just love everything about the movie. We're gonna give Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back, a 10 out of 10, and I personally think it is the best sci-fi action-adventure film ever made.